Has a bad church experience kept you away from beginning a relationship with Jesus or caused you to walk away from God? Well, if you said yes to either of those things, you are not alone. My next guest experienced that at a young age and came to a rather strong opinion about faith as a result. But a study of world religions would leave Steve VOVK faced with a decision about Jesus. Steve, welcome to 100 Huntley Street.
Thank you.
How did you get to a point where you could be honest as you explored these things?
Well, my brother had been going to a church that he really liked, and he had come to faith, and I was still very much hesitant. And he said, come on out, check it out. And so I go to this church, and I see these Christians, so happy, so friendly, hands raised, and I'm thinking, oh, this is a cult.
Okay.
And I'm thinking they're strange. I've never seen this before. Clearly, this is not what Christianity is like. But as I got to know them more and more and more, their personalities were foundationalized and they were solidified. And I came to know, one day it was a Thursday in March, and I'm doing homework, and my Bible, a gift from my Sunday school teacher, was on my bed.
Yeah, you're talking 2001 here.
Yeah. And I realized, and I just had this calling to get down on my knees and accept Jesus.
So it was, again, everybody has experience a little different. It's, life totally changes. For you, it was a little more progressive along the way, and then you eventually do make that decision to follow Jesus. But during that time, you're home from school sick. I assume that you were really sick, not just
Yes.
Okay. And you turned on this television program, 100 Huntley Street. Tell me about that.
Well, to tell you about that, it's going to jump back in the past a little about planting seeds. So I'm homesick, and I turn on the television, and I'm flipping through, and back then, the fun of being sick was getting to watch TV, and I come on to this program, and there's a man and a woman, and I'd later find out who they were, and they were talking.
Who were they?
David and his wife.
Norma G.
Yeah. And then I was watching this, and I thought it was so interesting. And then they were talking, and they were talking directly into the camera, and I thought it was so warm and so inviting. And then they had a couple of people performing as well. But then it was interesting. They talked about a prayer line. And I thought, it was the coolest thing to kind of see this program on live and to connect Christianity with a larger people out there. So I called the prayer line. I thought, I wonder if someone will actually answer.
How old were you then?
Maybe about 13.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Will someone answer the phone from a kid? And they picked up, and I remember it was this elderly lady. I don't remember her name, and she talked with me for what seemed like forever, and she took such an interest in me. I thought I was talking with my own grandmother. And she prayed for me, and she even said, if you want to call back again, you can. And she asked me, she tried to witness to me, and I said,
Explain about the gospel.
Yeah.
Jesus, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I already know about the gospel. I go to church, I'm good. But it planted a seed. And then one night I was up late, and Crossroads was on again. It was a rerun. And I thought, and the prayer lines again, and I was having a rough time. I was really upset about something. And I called again. I'm like, no way, no one's going to be there. And someone picked up again. And it was another elderly lady. And it was the same, not the same person, but it was the same feeling. It was the same connection. It was the same type of interest in who I was. And that always stood out to me, to the point where if I ever had a chance, I'd turn on the show, and even every time I drive past here, there's always a warm spot in my heart. It's kind of like a nostalgic memory, a nostalgic feeling.
How then did that affect you, Steve, then I know there was it takes time sometimes to understand everything about God and what Jesus did for us. But those calls, how important were they, when you look back now into your growth and now as you serve as a teacher and a vice principal working with kids with autism, before he went on, he said, it's not a job, it's a calling from God. How did some of those seeds that were planted through the prayer lines affect you?
I think it's that for the first time, really, that it was, I talked with someone and they talked with me like an adult and not like a kid. And they talked with me like I individually mattered. And it's different when you're in a large group setting and people may treat you like, you know, you matter, but it was that person was intentional about finding out about me.
Well, thank you for coming in and sharing your story. And you know, millions of people have called that prayer line, and I'm glad you did.
Thank you.
And you know, as you're watching today, maybe you're struggling with something. Maybe like Steve, and I was the same, I want nothing to do with God, I don't want nothing to do with church, and found ourselves in a relationship with Jesus. And the kind of people that Steve talked about on the other side of the prayer line, they'll take your call right now. Whatever you're going through, you need somebody to talk to, somebody to pray with you. 1-866-273-4444. Our prayer lines are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We'll be right back.